By now you know the number. Whatever monthly income you want, you multiply it by 300, and that is the size of the pile it takes to pay it, roughly forever. We have climbed that ladder 5 rungs, all the way from 500 a month to 10,000. But almost nobody stops to explain the part that actually matters. How a pile of index funds turns into money in your hand. How does a stack of investments hand you a paycheck you can spend on groceries? Everyone sells you the number and then goes quiet on the mechanism, as if the pile just knows to feed you. It does not. There is real plumbing behind that paycheck, and if you get it wrong, you can build the whole pile and still starve the machine. That is the engine room. And today we are opening it up, looking at every way the money can pay you. And which of those ways are quiet traps? Here is the plan for the next few minutes. First, a quick recap of how the whole ladder works, then the one distinction that governs this entire episode, and I mean the whole thing hangs off it. After that, the 6 engines. 6 different ways a pile of money can actually pay you a living. Engine 1, the 4% rule, selling a small slice, the default this series recommends. Engine 2, dividends, living on the cash without selling. Engine 3, rental real estate. Engine 4, bonds, CDs, and cash. Then the single most important warning in this whole series, the yield trap, taken apart piece by piece. And Engine 6, the 2 silent forces of taxes and timing. Then how to actually plumb your own machine. Let us open the panel. Quick recap, because it all rests on one idea. There is a long-standing planning rule of thumb that a sensible, broadly invested pile can pay out around 4% of itself every year, roughly forever, without running dry. Run that backwards and it collapses into mental math. To find the pile that funds a given monthly income, you multiply that income by 300. 500 a month, 150,000. 10,000 a month, 3 million. That is the ladder. But here is the question nobody answers. How does a pile of money actually hand you cash to live on? It does not mail you a check on its own. That is the engine room, and today we open it up. Before we touch a single engine, you need one frame, because it governs everything that follows. There are 2 completely different ways to get paid by a pile of money, and confusing them is where people wreck their plans. The first is total return. Total return is everything the pile earns, the growth in its value plus any dividends, added together, and you get at it by selling a small slice when you need cash. The second is yield. Yield is only the cash the pile hands you without you selling anything at all. Total return is the whole pie. Yield is just the crumbs that fall off on their own. Hold that distinction. Every engine today is really an argument about which of those 2 you are living on. Engine 1. And it is the spine of this whole series. The 4% rule, which really means own a broad index and each year sell a small slice to live on. This is the total return engine, and here is why it is the default I keep coming back to. When you own a slice of the entire market and you sell about 4% of it a year, you are harvesting everything the pile produced, the price growth and the dividends together as one number. You do not care where the return came from, only that it showed up. And that flexibility is the whole point. In a good year, you might sell almost nothing because dividends alone covered you. In a lean year, you trim a little more. You are never forced to take money out at the worst possible moment because you decide the size of the slice. It is simple. 1 broad fund, 1 small sale a year. It is tax light, because in most cases, you are only taxed on the gain inside the slice you actually sell, not the whole pile, and it does not tempt you into anything exotic. And notice what it does not ask of you. No tenants, no landlord phone calls, no bet on one company staying healthy, no chasing a headline number. It just quietly turns everything the whole market did into spendable cash on your schedule. This is the boring machine the entire ladder was built on. Own everything, sell a sliver, let the rest keep compounding. Every other engine today gets measured against this one, and most of them come up short. Engine 2, dividends. Living on the cash your pile pays out without ever selling a share. This one feels wonderful, and I understand why. You never touch the principal, the number of shares you own never drops, and every quarter the money just lands in your account like rent. It feels safe, permanent, almost magical. But I have to be honest with you about two things, because this is where people quietly go wrong. First, the math. A broad market index pays a dividend yield of only around 2%. So if you are determined to live on dividends alone, without ever selling, 2% does not clear the 4% bar. You would need a pile a lot bigger than the times 300 number to hit the same income. Living on yield alone is more expensive than the latter implies. Second, and this is the part almost nobody tells you, a dividend is not free money falling from the sky. When a company pays a dividend, its share price drops by almost exactly that amount on the day it pays. The company is worth a little less because the cash just left it. So a dividend is really the company selling a tiny slice of itself on your behalf and handing you the proceeds. It is not fundamentally different from you selling a sliver yourself. It just feels different. Dividends are fine. Reaching for a big headline yield to force this engine to work is where it turns dangerous, and we will come back to that. Engine 3, rental real estate. And this one is real, so let me give it a fair hearing before I give you the catch. A rental property can throw off genuine monthly cash flow, actual rent landing every month that can cover real bills. It lets you use leverage, meaning you can control a large asset with a smaller amount of your own money, which can amplify your returns. And it is a natural inflation hedge. When prices rise, rents tend to rise too, and so does the value of the building. For a lot of people, a paid-off rental is a beautiful income engine, but here is the honest part, the highlight reels skip. Real estate is not passive. It is a part-time job. You have tenants who call at midnight, repairs that arrive without warning, and vacancies where the rent stops, but the mortgage does not. It is illiquid. You cannot sell one bedroom to cover an emergency. It is all or nothing. And selling takes months and costs a fortune in fees. And it concentrates your risk. Instead of owning a sliver of thousands of companies, you own one building, on one street, exposed to one local economy, one roof, one bad tenant. That concentration can make you rich, and it can also sink a year. So call it what it is. Passive-ish, not passive. A powerful engine for the right person who wants the job. Just do not confuse it with the hands-off machine. Engine 4, bonds, CDs, and plain cash. The safe, boring, predictable end of the spectrum. When you buy a bond or a CD, you are lending money in exchange for a set stream of interest, and that stream is about as reliable as income gets. There is real value here, and it is not just the income, it is the stability. This is the ballast of your ship. When you are near the finish line or already living off your pile, having a chunk in bonds and cash is what protects you from being forced to sell your stocks in a crash. It is the buffer that defends you against bad timing, and we will see in a minute exactly why that matters. So as a shock absorber, bonds and cash are excellent. But here is the catch, and it is a quiet one. Low real return. Real return means what is left after inflation eats its share. Cash and safe bonds pay you a little, but inflation is busy shrinking what that money can buy, and over long stretches the two roughly cancel out. Your dollars stay the same number and quietly lose purchasing power. That is fine for a buffer you will spend soon. It is poison as your entire engine, because a pile that only keeps pace with inflation is not really paying you. It is just holding still. So use bonds and cash as ballast near and after the finish, sized to a year or two of spending, never as the whole machine. This is the most important warning in the entire series, so lean in. The yield trap. Somewhere out there is an investment advertising an 8, 10, even 12% yield. And every part of your brain wants to believe it because at 12%, your times 300 number shrinks and the finish line jumps closer. Here is why it is almost always fragile. Reason 1. Payout cut risk. A yield that high usually means the market is scared the payout cannot last, and prices things so the yield looks huge right before it gets cut. The income you were counting on evaporates. Reason 2, capital erosion. Very often, the high payout is being funded by the asset selling off its own body. The price grinds down year after year, so you collect a fat check while the pile underneath you shrinks toward nothing. Reason 3, the sneakiest, return of your own capital dressed up as income. Some products hand you back your own money and call it a distribution, so you feel like you are earning 12% when you are really just being slowly refunded your own deposit. Put it plainly, a steady 4% total return from a boring broad index beats a shiny 10% that breaks in year 3 and takes your principal with it. If you cannot clearly explain where a yield comes from, assume it is one of these 3. A high yield is not a reward. It is usually a warning label. The market is not stupid. If something safely paid 12%, everyone would pile in until it did not. When a yield stays that high, the market is telling you about a risk you have not spotted yet. Engine 6, the 2 silent forces that quietly change how much of your machine you actually get to keep and spend. The first is taxes, and the key idea is simple. Which account your machine lives in changes your real, spendable income, sometimes dramatically. The same pile earning the same return can hand you very different take-home amounts depending on whether it sits in a tax-advantaged account or a regular taxable one. I am keeping this general on purpose. This is education, not advice, and the rules differ by person and place. But the principle is universal. Do not measure your engine by what it earns. Measure it by what it earns after tax, because that is the number you get to live on. The second silent force is sequence risk, and it only shows up once you start withdrawing. It is not about what your returns average. It is about when they arrive. If a nasty crash hits in the first few years of living off your pile and you are selling slices to eat while prices are down, you can permanently damage the machine, even if the market later roars back. Same average return, brutally different outcome, all because of the order. And here is the fix which ties the whole episode together. That boring, broad index total return machine, plus a cash cushion of a year or 2, handles both of these best. The cushion lets you stop selling stocks in a crash, and the boring index keeps your real return alive against taxes and inflation. 2 silent forces, 1 calm answer, the plain machine and a little cash, doing the unglamorous work that keeps you paid. So how do you actually plumb your own engine now that the panel is open? Here is the honest blueprint, and it is boring on purpose, because boring is what survives a bad decade. First, default to the machine this whole series was built on. A broad, low-cost index fund, lived off through total return, selling a small slice each year. That is your base. Not the exciting part, the load-bearing part. Second, treat dividends, bonds, and real estate as seasoning, not the base. A little dividend income is fine. A slice of bonds as ballast near the finish is wise. A rental, if you genuinely want the job, can be great. But none of those should be the whole meal. They flavor the boring base. They do not replace it. Third, as you near the finish line, build a cash cushion of 1 to 2 years of spending. That is your sequence risk shield, the thing that lets you ride out a crash without selling your machine for parts at the bottom. Fourth, do not let the tax tail wag the dog. Be smart about which account your machine lives in, yes, but never twist your whole strategy into a knot just to dodge a little tax. The investment comes first. The tax wrapper serves it. And fifth, the one rule that protects you from the single worst mistake: never buy a yield you do not understand. If someone cannot explain in one clear sentence where an 8% payout comes from, your answer is no. A steady 4% you understand beats a glamorous 10% you do not, every single time. Do those 5 things and your engine will not be flashy. It will just quietly, reliably pay you, which is the entire point. So tell me in the comments, before this video, which engine were you assuming would pay you in retirement? Was it dividends, rentals, a big juicy yield? And did opening the engine room change your mind about it? I genuinely want to know. Wherever you landed, remember the master distinction. Total return is the whole pie, yield is just the crumbs, and the boring machine that harvests the whole pie is the one that lasts. This is education, not financial advice, just the map laid out honestly. Next time is the finale, the single fastest, most honest way up the entire ladder, and the 4 traps that strand people one rung from the top. I will see you there.